Yo, what is going on YouTube? It is your boy GCTV back with another video, and in this video we are going to be talking about the 68th episode of The Sopranos. It's the third of the sixth season, the final season of the show. We're kind of flying through this season. I got a couple of shows I'm going to keep in mind as we finish this up. We're going to watch another episode tonight, or today at some point, whenever I get around to it. Actually, after I'm done putting this video out, I'm probably going to start it. But yeah, I don't know. It's a lot to talk about here. A couple, there's actually a couple new characters, a couple people that died here. Nothing major. It was a kind of an action sequence type of deal. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about here. This final season is one of the most important. I mean, the final season for a lot of TV shows is usually the most important. So let's just get into it. So getting into kind of what happened real quickly here, there's quite a bit, again, there's a lot here. So Paulie and a member of his crew burglarized an apartment belonging to Colombian drug dealers in Newark. Uh, yeah, obviously doing a hit, doing a job, pretty classic mafia stuff. Nothing unexpected here. The apartment is not empty as expected, and a firefight ensues, leading to the deaths of the building superintendent and two of the drug dealers. So those are kind of the people that die in the episode. The one guy that doesn't let go here is Tony, and we will kind of get to his storyline here in a second. Yeah, I put in the thumbnail, will he let go? And no, he's not going to, because it's Tony Soprano. He's the most important character to the show. I don't think it'd be good for the show, which it kind of sucks to kind of look at that from this aspect, because it's almost like there's a predictability to it, but no, he's not going to let go. So there's a huge score, but it contributes to rising tensions within the Soprano family. Silvio makes rulings on how the money and Eugene's former Roseville bookmaking revenue should be split, and obviously with Tony not being the boss at the moment, there's a lot of disagreements with the philosophy of Silvio, because not a lot of people think that Silvio should be the boss right now anyway. A lot of people are jealous, a lot of people are bitter about this. So none of the parties involved like his decisions. Nobody. I mean, there's people that are split on Tony's decision. Surely there's just some discrepancies there. There's some grievances with Paulie, but with Silvio, no one likes his decision. So this is not good right now. So our reluctant boss, Silvio, is later hospitalized after an asthma attack. I mean, obviously you get really stressed, you start to breathe hard, and obviously people with asthma can't really handle that. So there you have it. I have this nasty ass pimple on my nose. It is what it is. But sorry if I sound a little grudgy. I don't know what the word is. Muttery. I just woke up a couple hours ago and I sat through a boring ass class, so stay with me here. But in case Tony does not recover, Paulie and Vito delay paying the cut they owe to Carmela, because it would look kind of bad if they gave her the money as he was dying. So Vito quietly starts a campaign to position himself as a potential new leader, maintaining a cardinal relationship with the Lupertazzi acting boss, Phil Leotardo, who is a second cousin of Vito's wife, Marie. So they have a lot of mutual stuff for each other. I mean, these are families, these are crime families, are all kind of connected in a way. So, yeah. He happens to be in the hospital when Meadows' fiance Finn turns up and makes a threatening pass at him. Of course. Of course, the plot convenience of that. We saw their weird, awkward relationship from last season, and it kind of returns here to an extent. So, Christopher and Bobby confront AJ when he attempts to buy a gun, intending to take revenge on Junior. He's kind of naive. He doesn't really realize the extent of this situation. Junior was pretty under the weather, pretty demented, pretty fucked up when he did this, so sorry. I guess AJ didn't really understand that though, and that's pretty understandable. So I said understand twice in one sentence. That's where we're at in the morning. So Carmela sees a news report about Tony being shot, in which AJ remarks that it is weird growing up in their family. And obviously this is a really bad look. It just isn't great for their reputation. So she yells at her son, furiously telling him he is a cross to bear, and then sobs in her room. She has resentment. She kind of has some remorse right after, which is obviously what makes her kind of a good mother. She has resentment towards what she said to her son right then and there. The next day, Carmela tells Dr. Melfi that while she knew what Tony was when she married him, their kids don't decide who they're born to, so they can't really decide the life they live, and she can't blame Anthony Jr. for being mad and cursing the media and saying this shit is weird because, well, it's not like he can move to a different family. It's not like, oh, if you don't like it, then leave. He can't do that. He doesn't have the independency of an adult to do that quite yet. So Chris's passion for the movie industry is reborn kind of with his cousin in the hospital and kind of dealing with some stuff. He wants to move back into being a writer, I guess. So he has Benny Fazio and Murmur rough up screenwriter J.T. Dolan and orders him to write a script for a slasher mob film he wants to produce. So he has some ideas. He's experienced a lot of stuff in the mafia, and he wants to translate that into a sort of film. So he calls on his old screenwriter friend, of course. So Chris later arranges a meeting with potential investors, the chief advisor and partner being Little Carmine. So this is obviously Little Carmine's opportunity to take some power, I guess. So JT comes up with the title Cleaver and explains the premise to the investors, including Silvio, Vito, and Larry Boy Baris, but they seem confused about its plot. It doesn't really make sense. There's a lot of inconsistencies with it. I think Cleaver's a pretty dope title, though. I feel like they should make a movie called Cleaver in real life. That sounds pretty realistic. But nevertheless, Chris assures them the film is a guaranteed success. They have so many things combined in it, a bunch of worlds kind of crossing over and mashing together that can make them money. So, although only family members are allowed to see Tony, meanwhile we're back at the hospital here. Silvio and Polly are smuggled in by Carmela and Meadow. Alone with Tony, Paulie treats his unconscious boss to a tedious and discontented monologue about his current life. And with Tony being in a coma, and with the show's focus being on him, of course, as it is the entire show, there's going to be some monologues, and I think it creates some pretty dope moments there. So, yeah, Tony's heart rate escalates steadily, but Paulie does not notice it until he goes into cardiac arrest. Hospital staff rush in. So, yeah. Tony's dream sequence from the previous episode is continued. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. 2 episodes, they've kind of held this up. I'm not really mad at it. I think it's pretty effective, but yeah. So at his hotel room, Tony receives a summons from the Buddhist monks addressed to Kevin Finnerty, and he begins to question his identity. Am I Kevin Finnerty? He seeks answers from the bartender and the monks, but finds none. It's just a super confusing thing, and there's a lot of cool symbolism here. You kind of understand, he lost his identity. It's almost like a representation of, I lost my life, because he quite literally did. Tony is disturbed by muffled sounds from an adjoining room in his hotel. Paulie is talking to him and bangs angrily on the wall for quiet. And, you can hear things in the outside world when you're in a coma to an extent, especially when you're in a dream state, which you kind of are the entire time you're in a coma. So, having found a flyer for the Finnerty family reunion in his briefcase, he is greeted outside the venue by a man who looks like his cousin Tony Blundetto, obviously played by the same Steve Buscemi. And nobody talks about how unlikely of a cast member he was. That's kind of fire. But I'm sure he had connections, but it's kind of cool to see it. He's a huge celebrity. He was in a lot of movies coming prior to this, so it's kind of cool that he was on the show. I don't know if I've said that before. Maybe I have. But the man tries to get Tony to enter the light-festooned house, assuring him that everyone's here and that he is coming home. But he's also telling Tony that he must first let go of his business and hand over his briefcase. And there's so much symbolism here. This is one of the more impactful scenes of this season so far. The briefcase kind of representing his life, and the house going into it kind of represents him, transitioning to wherever he might go after he passes on. So yeah, it's really cool. And Tony replies that he has already given away a briefcase once, which had his whole life inside, and does not want to do it again. And that kind of represents him, his whole life, giving away his life, his normal life almost, is what that means. I don't know if I'm interpreting this correctly. I don't even know if interpreting correctly is even a possible thing, because everyone has different interpretations. But yeah, he doesn't want to lose his mob life. He wants to be alive, because the normal version of him is already dead. So standing at the steps of the house, Tony hesitates for some time. with the figure of someone similar to his mother standing by the doorway in front of him, and the faint voice of a little girl coming from the trees behind him, pleading with him not to go. Meadow is calling to her father. Tony chooses not to enter the house, not to transition to the afterlife. Good Lord, people are being loud, but not choosing not to transition and not to give up as Meadow was calling for him. So Meadow almost like saved his life, which doesn't happen in real life. This is obviously a super fantastical aspect of a show, but yeah. So Tony awakes in the hospital asking, "I'm dead, right?" Which is a crazy quote. So later, heavily sedated and still almost unable to talk, Tony listens to an excited Christopher explain his movie venture to him. Tony can't have any emotions or anything because he's pretty much a fucking vegetable at this point. He says he left a position for Tony to become a major investor. You know, the money that Tony has, the stature that he has, that might be exactly what this movie needs. So, Christopher then notices an Ojibwe saying taped onto the wall, "Sometimes I go about in pity for myself, and all the while a great wind carries me across the sky." So, with Tony now conscious, Paulie and Vito anxiously rush to get their cuts to Carmela. And Carmela kind of notices this. They hand over the cash and she is grateful, but as they're leaving in the elevator, she turns around and sees them looking sour. And it's kind of weird because this is one of the first times we've seen Carmela kind of notice, like, the coldness of a mafia member. I know she has been around it her whole life, obviously marrying a mob boss. Not then he was, but now he is. But yeah, it's kind of crazy to see that little detail at the end. But we meet a couple of new people. Marie Spatafora is Vito Spatafora's wife. And then we get Patty Leotardo, who's Phil Leotardo's wife. So we're meeting those two's families. Those two characters are kind of being developed more and more. And yeah, a couple people died. Obviously, the building superintendent was inadvertently shot by one of the Colombians, and then two Colombians died. One was shot by Carrie Di Bartolo and Paulie, and yeah, the other one was shot by Carrie Di Bartolo and then stabbed by Paulie. So, not huge characters, but obviously deaths happened in this episode. There were some action sequences. I know this is a long talk, but this is the final season. These are some huge episodes, you know, a lot happens. So, yeah, I'm just going to kind of throw these clips together, and then tonight, whatever good NBA games we have, we are going to be talking about them. Obviously, March Madness is taking a break until the Final Four, so we are going to hold off on that. But anyways, sorry about the background noise outside. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It has been your boy, GZTV. I'm going to actually start this next episode before I head out to lunch and class and all this stuff. Hopefully it doesn't rain. That would kind of suck ass, because I kind of want to ride my scooter to fucking lunch, but hey, it is what it is. I live in the Midwest. The weather here is pretty inconsistent, so yeah, another Soprano review will be coming tomorrow, so peace out.